Are you seeing how big this thing is? This thing is humongous, and it weighs like 80 pounds. This computer right here is going to be the first computer in a brand new series that we are going to be calling the Build It Up Challenge. And if you are curious and wondering what on earth I am talking about, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you right now. PC flipping is nothing new, and tons of people do it. What you do is you look for computers online that you can buy for a cheap price, you usually fix them, clean them up, do a little bit of upgrades, and then you sell them for a profit. Now, you don't usually make a ton of money by doing this, but if you are somebody who loves to work on computers, it is a great side hustle to make a little bit of extra spending cash. So that brings me to the Build It Up Challenge. What we are going to do is start with a reasonably small amount of money, and we're going to use that money to buy a computer, some small upgrades, and then we are going to sell that computer, hopefully for a profit, so that we can add to our total bankroll, so that in the end of this series, we can build a truly epic system with all the money that we've earned from flipping our computers. Now, when I say epic system, I mean exactly that, an epic gaming system. And the fun thing is, you guys are going to get to play a role in what items we decide to put in that epic system, because it is so important that you all like this computer, because in the end, once we have sold enough of our computers to build our epic system, I'm going to give it to one of you. Now get excited about that, but don't get too excited, because it is going to take us quite a bit of time to sell enough of our flip computers to purchase the computer that I'm thinking about in my head. But I think that we are going to have an absolute blast getting there, because at the end of every video, I will tell you how much each computer has sold for and what our total amount of cash saved up is. So for our starting funds, I figured our bank should have $500 in it, because that would make it so that we have enough money in the bank to buy our first computer and maybe a second computer, so that we always have a project going on while our computers are trying to sell, because not every computer is going to sell within a week, and we want to make sure that we have funds coming back into our bank account regularly, so that we are growing that money, so we can finally get to the end where we build the most epic computer ever. So let's go ahead and talk about our first flip here. Not only is it obviously humongous, but this is probably the strangest and most interesting PC case that I've ever seen. And I'm sure that back when this computer was built, this thing was probably the coolest looking computer anyone had ever seen. But in today's standards, it doesn't quite stack up. It does have an i7 inside of here, but it is a first gen i7. So that means that this CPU is from 2008. Now, if we were to time travel all the way back to 2008, I'm sure that this case right here was the belle of the ball, because it does have some pretty cool features, like these two push release buttons for your front panel and your back panel. It also does have a push lever here that hides away your front panel, and this super cool little door here in the front, which hides the 4 hot swappable hard drive bays that come included in the case. But wait, there's more. Not only is this case super interesting, but the system itself has some pretty strange things going on. Have you ever seen a motherboard with a remote control? No? Well, now you have. So this motherboard remote control appears to have the ability to control the boost clock speeds for your CPU. I mean, with the push of a button, you could overclock or underclock your CPU as you see fit. Because you definitely need to do that. You couldn't possibly do that from the BIOS. What a stretch trying to add weird stuff to a motherboard to make it more expensive. And I am sure back when this computer was first built, a 120mm radiator was a huge advancement in CPU cooling. But did we really need to stack 4 fans to it? I wonder what kind of impact 4 fans has on this 120mm radiator. And to add to all the other cool things that this computer has to offer, we also get this pretty sweet retro NZXT temperature and fan control module, which I think looks pretty awesome, and it probably was some pretty sweet eye candy back in the day. Now, for the graphics card that was put inside of this system, it does have a very old GeForce 275. And it does appear as though he may have had two of this graphics card inside of here, because in the front, there is the power pulled through this bezel for a second graphics card. I guess what had happened was it was removed, maybe it was malfunctioning, something, but we do only get the one graphics card. Now, when flipping computers, you do want to try and use everything that you paid for, because you want to try to keep costs down as much as you possibly can, but you also have to have that consumer mindset. So making sure the computer that you're working on has some kind of eye appeal is very important, because the old saying, eye appeal is buy appeal, is absolutely true. And with that saying in mind, I don't know if I want to keep this case or if I want to case swap this computer for something that has a little bit more curb appeal, because while I do think that this computer case is really cool, it does have some cosmetic issues. But while I debate with myself on if I want to case swap this computer or not, let's go ahead and take this thing apart, because it does need to be cleaned if we're gonna sell it to somebody. So in the amount of time that it took me to disassemble the world's filthiest 120 millimeter radiator, I decided that we are not going to be using this case. We will be using this case right here. It does have two massive ARGB fans inside of the system, as well as an ARGB fan for exhaust, and it's going to do a much better job than this computer will to catch the eye, because what you're trying to do is draw attention to the computer in your listing so that it sells faster and people would want to spend money on it. Now, as far as this case is concerned, we will put it back on Facebook Marketplace, because if you're not going to use it, you should try and resell it, because you want to get as much money for the computer that you're building as possible so that we can build our bankroll. Now, I think somebody will love this computer, so it should sell pretty fast, because honestly, if I was somebody who was into retro cases, I would pay a crazy amount of money for this thing, because it is so cool. Now, as far as the rest of the items in the system are concerned, they are extremely dirty and they are in desperate need of a deep cleaning. And we're gonna get to that right after I talk about how cool this graphics card is. I mean, for real, when's the last time you've seen a graphics card that looked like that? I mean, this thing is super sick. Unfortunately, it's not gonna be going into our system, because I'd like to actually sell the computer and that's not gonna do anything for us. So I did go out and I picked up this 1050 Ti. It will pair very nicely with that first generation Intel i7 CPU. So now that that's all out of the way and you know everything that's going inside of this computer, let's go ahead and play some music and let's start cleaning. So all of the hardware that is going to go inside of our brand new case is 100% clean and it's looking really, really good. I do, however, have one small issue, and it is with this SSD right here. Now this SSD is a 64 gig SSD, and that's about enough to put your operating system on and nothing else. And if we're gonna try to sell this to somebody, you can't just have 64 gigs of storage. That's just not going to work. So we had to go out and pick more storage up. And so online I found this for $5. It is a 3.5 inch 500 gig hard drive. Now you can find these all over the place. They're super, super cheap, and it's convenient storage. It will be enough for them to put a couple games on their system, and if they're using it for school, some documents, whatever, but it will add more storage to the system, and it is extremely cheap. But it is time to start putting our computer together, so let's go ahead and start throwing our hardware in here so that we can turn this thing on for the first time. All right, so our first flip computer is inside of its brand new case, and I think that it's looking pretty good. The next thing we've got to do is power this system on for the first time and see if we can get an image from it. Now, you at home, I'm gonna need you to cross your fingers because it would be a true shame if the first computer that we tried to flip for profit ends up not working. So let's go ahead and push this button and just pray a little bit. All right, so the two humongous fans are spinning. Oh, all right, all the fans are spinning. Can we get an image? All right, I'm gonna close my eyes. Tell me when we get an image, or if we get an image. Did we get an image? Yeah, baby, yes. All right, now what we gotta do is put Windows on this system, and let's see how well it can play some games.
I need help!
So for our first flip computer, I think that this system right here is actually pretty darn fantastic. You saw Lost Ark, we had the settings up at max and this system ran that game perfectly. It even played Forza Horizon 5 surprisingly well. Now when it came to games like Gotham Knights, it did struggle a little bit, but that is a very intense game. And to get 40 FPS out of this system, I was happy with. It was a playable game and the experience wasn't terrible. 40 FPS isn't the end of the world, but it did make this system show its age a little bit. All right, so now the moment that I'm sure some of you have been waiting for, it's how much I paid for everything that is inside this system. For the original PC with that gigantic case, I paid $100 for that entire system. For the brand new case that we put this system in, I did pay $81 after tax, which I would probably go with a cheaper case. This case I thought looked cool. It wasn't all that great. It's a little flimsy. I wouldn't go out and buy this specific case, but it does have the two huge fans in the front which catch your eye and the ARGB factor. We'll see what happens. For the new graphics card that is in the system, I paid $60 for that 1050 Ti. And I paid $5 for that 3.5-inch 500 gig hard drive so we could add more storage to this system, which brings our total up to, let me get my notes out, $246 to build this system right here. Now that leaves us with $254 remaining, which is plenty enough to get another system started, which is exactly what we want. So as far as what I'm going to list this computer for, I am going to put it online at $440. Now I know that that's a little high. That's definitely more than I think that someone should pay for this computer. But this is Facebook Marketplace, and smart people who buy computers on Facebook Marketplace negotiate price. So it's important to start a little bit higher so that way when they make an offer, they will come down a little bit and we'll meet somewhere in the middle, probably at around $375, which will make us a decent amount of profit to add to our bank. Now, I do appreciate every single one of you spending your time watching this video. I hope that this series is a whole bunch of fun. I'm super, super excited to start it, and I cannot wait to get the next video out and to tell you how much this computer actually sold for. But until the next video does come out, I hope that no matter where you are in the world, you are having the most fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.